Good evening, friends. Welcome to Gord's Poetry Show number 4. Here on this 2012 Good Friday Passover with a lovely full moon. And it's lurking up there somewhere. I can see it sort of affecting the evening sky even now. I hope you've had a nice Good Friday, Passover, or maybe it was just a normal Friday for you. I had a lovely one myself. Poetry, the eternal friend of mankind. I would like to read from the Global Poetry Anthology, recently published by Signal Editions. And let me just describe what it is exactly. The poems in the 2011 Global Poetry Anthology are new, previously unpublished works from around the world, selected in a blind process by a team of editors from Australia, Guyana, India, Ireland, Jamaica, Malawi, Nigeria, the UK, the US, and Canada. They are pleased to offer what may be the first opportunity most readers have had to read an anthology of global poetry representing the rhythms, flavors, preoccupations, and tastes of a diverse international collection of poets writing in English. And all applause to that worthy aspiration and accomplishment. Now, there are many good poems in this small anthology. I'm going to read 2. The first is by one Susan Glickman, and it is called On Finding a Copy of Pigeon in the Hospital Bookstore. I prowled up and down the rows of the hospital bookstore with a fevered intensity. Fevered because it was a hospital. Intensity because I was perplexed by the mysteriously ruptured tendon in the middle finger of my right hand, in sympathy with which the whole hand had cramped, so that I could scarcely hold a pen or open a jar. Even a 5-month-old octopus in the Munich Zoo can open a jar. The octopus's name is Frida, which reminded me of D.H. Lawrence, and thinking of him brought me to the hospital bookstore. It was minimally stocked with anything resembling literature, offering those in pain, afraid, or just dully waiting for test results a choice of pink-jacketed chick lit, cookbooks, investment guides, or glossy thrillers spilling blood, as red as that pooling down the hall in the OR. As though emulating some homeopathic principle of curing a disease by a surfeit of that which caused it. Oh my. And perched as eccentrically as the sparrow who sings from the rafters at Loblaws, and looking just as lost, was the only volume of poetry in the store. Reading it, I recognized at once what I disliked about the bulky bestsellers nudging it from the shelf like bullies in the halls of a high school, their meaty faces full of self-regard, their minds absent of thought. I hate the omnipresent present tense, that fake cinematic contrivance meant to create a sense of being in the moment, with the hero as though life were a constant rush of adrenaline with no possible mood but surprise. Whereas poetry offers the result of its meditation tentatively. It is not embarrassed to show that thinking, some of it slow, arduous, confused, has taken place. And then poetry doesn't rush ahead shouting, "Look at me! Look at me!" Instead, it takes your hand, your poor mangled hand, like the good surgeon it is, and massages it joint by joint, feeling for the sore places. And because it doesn't speak without reflection, you trust it and let it cut you open. Nice one, Susan. Now, a fine poem by a poet known to me, long-lived and much written Canadian poet, Gary Geddes. And here's a poem he had selected for this anthology called Late Breaking News. We're in Wally's Renault, driving south in Provence, the car radio harvesting disaster, swaths of it, and the fields bloody with tulips, a brash statement stretching to the low hills of the Luberon. Later, in the hilltop fortress, with its catapult and trebuchet, I ask my friend what happened to monks, to sanctuary, places where little pain sears the weary breastbone, where envy's rare as gourmet meals, where even that spirited horse, grown accustomed to lassitude, nudges the pitchfork's worn handle until hay falls like manna from the loft, and where prayers are crafted in lieu of weapons. Eternity is long, Pascal has written, so faith is worth the gamble. The soul sets sail for a distant port. Tears mark its departure, but what marks its arrival? Planks resound with footsteps. Deep water parts to accommodate the insistent keel. Wally, amused, dismisses these speculations, insists there's romance in neither monastery nor rose. Solace, perhaps, though skimpy, and only in what the moving pen inscribes or the stiff horsehairs of the brush render permanent and lovely. Those moments, all too brief, when the anchor holds and the sea blooms resplendent with all manner of kelp and with the scrubbed tulip faces of the dead. Yes, the scrubbed tulip faces of the dead. Now, on to a 1992, or is it 1998, book by Robyn Sarah, Questions About the Stars. And in this book I found a very appropriate villanelle for a cool April. I like a leafing out by increments, not bolting bloom in sudden heat begun, life's sweetest savoured in the present tense. I like to watch the shadows pack their tents before the creep of the advancing sun. I like a leafing out by increments. To watch the tendrils inch along the fence, to take my pleasures slow and one by one. Life's sweetest savoured in the present tense. Oh, Leave tomorrow's fruit to Providence, and dote upon the bud, from which is spun a leafing out to love in increments, a greening in the cool of swooning sense, a feathered touch, a button just undone, life's sweetest savoured in the present tense, as love when it withholds and then relents, as a cool April lets each moment stun. I like leafing out by increments. Life's sweetest savoured in the present tense. Yes, very much so. I hear through the buzz of the Facebook friends and neighbours that Alice Burdick has a new book coming out. Well, I thought to myself, don't I have one of her older books? And so I went looking. Couldn't find it at first, but it was misfiled with the Don Coles. So, from Simple Master by Alice Burdick from some years ago, 2 poems, Archives 1 and Archives 2. Rather small print in this one, so I'll be doing my fair share of peering. Archives 1. Everything is too tall for me. My life is too tall. This table is too high. Excuse me, miss, where is the museum? You go straight along your chosen path and record your life as though it belongs to someone else. Don't forget the etchings or the remnants of baby paraphernalia. A museum is what you make it. Ask any missionary. Oh, thank you, miss. So many trees. Among them you'll find a letter here, a letter there, a lifetime spelled in letters, so you can't forget all the horizons. A bottle here, a bottle there. Some of them containing centuries of red ants, always on the defensive. Some with a little liquid left. It is too early for recriminations. Archives 2. Calm there, Ervo. Every time an insult rises to a new level and the sense of the past remembering your name pains you, though you've struck out its presence, it startles you into looking at your hands and asking, what yet have I done with these? What good or bad or change at all? And the hands don't answer. What sort of speech should your tongue form to warm your suspicions to others? Those too gentle to hear you right, or those who have already felt your guilt? Life does not mean to hurt you so, not so continually. Pain is not necessary. It is said that you have never known a home as warm as those you've imagined. And your home can never remain in the same place for very long. Thank you, Alice. Look forward to the new one. Now, famous American poet, current, perhaps the best compositor in English, yet still alive, John Ashbery. He has published his translation of Rimbaud's Illuminations. And I will read a couple of those. But first, to set the tone, I'll read some Stephan Mallarme from 1971, translation by C.F. McIntyre, just to get you in the mood for the Rimbaud. Tristesse d'été. The sunlight on the sand, O wrestler asleep, is heating a languorous bath in your golden hair, and burning the incense on your enemy cheek, it mingles an amorous potion with the tears. Of this white blazing, the immutable calm, oh, my timid kisses, has made you sadly wonder, will we ever be one mummy under the ancient desert and the happy palms? But your thick tresses are a tepid river to drown the soul that haunts us without shudders, to find this nothingness to you unknown. I'll taste the rouge by your eyes overwept, to see if it can give the heart you've whipped the indifference of azure and of stones. Stephan Mallarme. You think he was still living now, wouldn't you? Oh, Arthur Rimbaud, The Illuminations. A lot of people have had a go at translating them, and they're as impenetrable as ever. And John Ashbery has gifted us with his take on them, and mighty pleased I am to see that. From the preface, what are the Illuminations? Originally an untitled, unpaginated bunch of manuscript pages that Arthur Rimbaud handed to his former lover, Paul Verlaine, on the occasion of their last meeting in Stuttgart in 1875. Verlaine had recently been released from a term in a Belgian prison for wounding the younger poet with a pistol in Brussels 2 years earlier. Rimbaud wanted his assassin manqué to deliver the pages to a friend, Germain Nouveau, who, he thought, would arrange for their publication. Now, if you want to know more about the background, apparently John says you have to go to Enid Starkey's biography. And that's an old one. Yes, they knew how to do it in those days, didn't they? Shoot their boyfriends and then go to jail. Now, as I say, the entire book is an impenetrable mystery, but boy, does it sing! Lives, this one's called. Oh, wait a minute. Am I doing lives? No, I think I'm doing another one. Sorry, we're not doing lives. That's too long. To a reason. To a reason? A tap of your finger on the drum releases all sounds and initiates the new harmony. A step of yours is the conscription of the new men and their marching orders. You look away, the new love. You look back, the new love. Changes our fates, shoot down the plagues, beginning with time, the children sing to you. Build whatever you can, the substance of our fortunes and our wishes, they beg you. Arriving from always, you'll go away everywhere. My, oh my. Arriving from always, you go away everywhere. the bridges. Crystal grey skies. A bizarre pattern of bridges, some of them straight, others convex, still others descending or veering off at angles to the first ones. And these shapes multiplying in the other illuminated circuits of the canal, but all of them so long and delicate that the riverbanks burdened with domes fall away and diminish. Some of these bridges are still lined with hovels, others support masts, signals, frail parapets. Minor chords meet and leave each other. Ropes climb up from the banks. One can make out a red jacket, perhaps other costumes and musical instruments. Are these popular tunes fragments of concerts offered by the aristocracy, snatches of public hymns? The water is grey and blue, wide as an arm of the sea. A white ray, falling from the top of the sky, wipes out this bit of theatricality. Well, well. Perhaps some more of these next time. They are so lovely. And going backwards, well, not that far, not really backwards in time at all. Last century. Emily Dickinson, poem number 1755. They didn't have names, they had numbers. To make a prairie, it takes a clover and one bee. One clover and a bee, and reverie. The reverie alone will do, if bees are few. And from Thomas Hardy, The Self-Unseeing. Here is the ancient floor, foot-worn and hollowed and thin. Here was the former door, where the dead feet walked in. She sat here in her chair, smiling into the fire. He who played stood there, bowing it higher and higher. Childlike, I danced in a dream. Blessings emblazoned that day. Everything glowed with a gleam, yet we were looking away. Isn't that the truth, though? Life's what happens when you're making other plans. So, friends, drawing to a quiet close here, and I will turn things down. And bid you farewell for now, until poetry strikes our hearts again.